the Middle East, the Israeli Air Force has forged one of the most skilled fighting units in the history of aerial warfare. Often outnumbered, the Israelis have tallied more victories in the modern dogfight than any other air force. Now, with remarkable computer animation, you're in the cockpit with the best of the IAF. As Mirage 3 and F-15 fighters slug it out with combat-tested MiGs. Experience the battle, dissect the tactics, relive the dogfights of the Middle East. June 7, 1967, the Six-Day War. 3 Israeli Mirage fighters streak towards the southern tip of the Sinai Peninsula. The Israelis, threatened with hostile armies massed on their borders, have made lightning strikes against the Soviet-equipped Arab air forces. Now they're battling across a broad front in Egypt, Syria, and Jordan. Lieutenant Giora Rome is flying number 3. Suddenly, GCI, ground-controlled intercept, crackles over the radio. Israeli troops in the strategic mountain pass of Bir Gafgafar are under attack by MiG-17s. The Mirages, designed to take on enemy aircraft, jettison their external tanks and heavy load of bombs. Now they're in their element. In the fading light, Rome catches movement close to the ground. Though he's only a lieutenant, Giora Rome is supremely confident and very aggressive. He learned a valuable lesson 2 days earlier, the first time he encountered a MiG.
I was in a very convenient position to shoot him down, but my number 1 told me, move aside, I'm going to shoot him down. And I, as a very young pilot, and a very disciplined pilot at that time, moved aside and he shot him down. And at that moment I said to myself, I'm not going to move aside, never in my entire life.
Minutes after that first disappointment, Rome kills 2 MiG-21s with his 30mm cannon. Later that same afternoon, over Syria, he knocks a 3rd MiG-21 out of the sky. Now, Giora Rome, the junior officer in the flight, has spotted 2 MiG-17s firing on Israeli troops. The MiGs are here. The Mirages are here. The young pilot will take the initiative and pitch over into a steep dive. His speed builds rapidly. He's going too fast. By the time Rome is ready to fire, he's already overtaken them. The MiGs bug out to the west.
They saw me, and then they turned as a pair westward to fly back, to run away to Egypt.
He loops back around to chase the MiGs. Meanwhile, the other 2 Israeli Mirages have lost sight of Rome.
And they ask, where are you flying? Now you remember my story about the first MiG-21 I missed. I said to them, I'm flying eastward. And I send them direction due east.
He has intentionally sent his superior officers in the wrong direction.
Now I'm by myself with the 2 MiG-17s. and they're flying like about, I would say, 15 meters above the road of the middle of Sinai, very low.
Rome accelerates on the deck. At this altitude, the Mirage is over 100 miles per hour faster than the MiG-17. But he's taking a beating from the MiG's jet wash. It's nearly impossible to keep his pepper on the target, but he manages to get off a shot. 30-millimeter high-explosive rounds tear into the MiG.
And I shot a burst at the number 2. And there were black pieces coming from him all over the place. But unlike the previous MiG-21s, he didn't explode. On the contrary, he raised his nose and started to climb, while number 1 was continuing to fly to Egypt.
Rome overtakes the climbing MiG.
Something was very strange because he was climbing. He didn't maneuver, just climbing. And all of a sudden I found myself in close formation with the MiG-17. I look at it. There was no canopy. There was no pilot inside. Part of the black pieces that I saw was the pilot. He ejected himself after he raised his nose. And now I was chasing a pilotless MiG-17. But after another like 10 or 15 seconds, all of a sudden he rolled on his back, his nose fell down, and he hit the ground.
Lieutenant Giora Rome, against overwhelming odds, has racked up 4 MiGs in 3 days. He is 1 kill away from becoming Israel's first jet ace. During the 1960s, the Arab countries surrounding Israel accrued a nearly 5-to-1 superiority in numbers of combat aircraft. The venerable Russian MiG-17 was the most widely used fighter in the Arab world. Although subsonic, the MiG-17 was built like a tank and extremely maneuverable. In 1962, the Israeli Air Force acquired the French-built Mirage 3 as a response to advanced Russian aircraft being supplied to the Arabs. The Delta Wing Mirage was a lightweight Mach 2 fighter designed to climb quickly to altitude to intercept enemy bombers. The Mirage was an extremely versatile aircraft, and the Israelis used it successfully as a fighter bomber. The Israelis acquired 72 of the new planes. Only the best fighter pilots were assigned to Mirages.
The Mirage was very powerful. It was simple, it was clear to me, it was in full control, it was joyful. It was excellent.
Armed originally with only radar-guided missiles, the Israelis insisted on cannon. Their air combat doctrine called for getting in close and using a gun.
They would put the pipper on the adversary and they would keep it there for 3 seconds or 2 seconds. That was required to do air-to-air gun kill. And they trained and they trained and they trained and they got very good at it.
The Mirage 3 is faster and has a better rate of climb. But the slower MiG-17 can turn tighter at low altitudes and can absorb punishment. Rome has just exploited the Mirage's blistering speed to score his 4th kill. But there's one more MiG-17.
And I fly very low and I try to locate him above the horizon, so I'm flying like about 700 knots and very low. And then I saw him, and I was just behind him.
Focused intently on his prey, Rome disregards the calls from his flight leader.
They tell me to stop and to come back on. I say, I'm going to do it in a moment. And the MiG-17 brakes all of a sudden.
The MiG pilot pulls to 5,000 feet.
Now it's like 6 p.m. And everyone at the Suez Canal is looking at us and shooting at us. So there is like a pool of AAA, and there is a MiG-17, and there is myself.
The Egyptian MiG begins to make sharp turns back and forth. He's trying to lure Rome into a turning fight where the MiG-17 excels.
Big mistake to do it with MiG-17 when you fly Mirage, because the MiG-17 flies slower than Mirage. You are doomed. What you should do is to let him fight for his life here while you take advantage of your extra energy and power.
He initiates a series of high and low yo-yos. While the MiG turns horizontally, Rome uses his speed advantage to maneuver vertically, up and down, to position for a shot.
So it was like 5 or 6 times where I couldn't really put my gun sight within the very steep rate of turn that he had. Every time I went up and he turned and I came down, it was like some dance over the Suez Canal, because here you have a MiG-17, probably with a nice guy driving it, and me.
Finally, he gets an opening. The Pipper is on the target. 2 seconds is all he needs. It's number 5 for Lieutenant Giora Rome. The brash 21-year-old is now Israel's first jet ace. But in the hostile skies above the Sinai Peninsula, there are other aircraft that threaten the Israelis. A long-distance bombing strike will find Ron Ronan, a distinguished IAF leader and ace pilot, facing MiG-19s in one of the most famous encounters of the Six-Day War. June 5th, 1967. 119 Squadron CO Ron Ronan is leading a formation of Mirages to a distant target over 600 miles away. Gardaka, an Egyptian airfield near the Red Sea, south of the Sinai Peninsula. Ronan's mission is to put the runways out of action with specially developed cratering bombs.
We have 8 bombs. Each bomb is 500 kilos with a fuses of, it's called 712, which means the bomb got in and then explode. This because this makes a big crater.
Over the Red Sea, the formation drops to low level to keep the element of surprise. Navigating by compass, elapsed time, and airspeed, they approach the target area. Approaching the target, they'll pull up to 5,000 feet, roll over, and start their bomb run. 540 knots, 900 feet per second. One minute to pull. Ronan orders switches on. Final cockpit check. 5 seconds to pull. Ready, ready, pull. Stick back, nose up 50 degrees, full afterburner. The altimeter spins clockwise to 4,000 feet. Suddenly, out of the right side of the canopy, Gardaka appears. so does the AAA.
The moment I pulled, they started shooting. It was unbelievable.
The Mirages roll in. The pilots swallow their fear and concentrate on the bomb run. The bombs impact precisely, rendering the runway useless. The Mirages press the attack, crisscrossing the field. Then, number 3, the second most experienced pilot in the flight, calls bingo fuel, his limit to return safely home. Ronan must continue the bombing mission with only 3 Mirages. Ronan leads 2 and 4, who are new pilots, on another strafing pass. Suddenly, 4 shouts in near panic for Ronan to take evasive action.
Then I heard number 4 say, "One break, somebody behind you." I look around and saw MiG-19 very close to me. If you see an airplane firing on you, it's okay because the bullets cross you behind you. When you see his bottom here, and if I go here, a big problem.
The MiG is pulling hard, trying to get his nose pointed in front of Ronan's Mirage to lead him with gunfire. Ronan must force the MiG to overshoot. He will pitch his nose up, then roll over the top and let the MiG pass beneath him. Then he'll descend right on the MiG's tail. It's a classic Israeli tactic called "let him pass." The MiG overshoots. Ronan drops down on his 6 o'clock. The Egyptian knows it is about to end.
I got behind him 300 meters or less, and within no time, I pulled the trigger and shot him. And he crashed into the base.
Ronan's Mirage is suddenly alone in the sky. One MiG is down, but Ronan knows that MiGs hunt in packs. The fight over Gardaka is not over. Egyptian air bases were the primary objective of the Israeli Air Force on the first day of the 6-day war. The plan was called Operation Moked, or Focus. On June 5, 1967, during 5 furious hours, the Israelis destroyed over 400 Arab aircraft on the ground. In response, the Egyptians put many of their remaining aircraft on airborne alert. A flight of these MiGs has just ambushed Ron Ronan's Mirages. In the engagement, Ronan has lost sight of his wingmen.
Then I asked, where are you, the other 2?
Ronan's number 2 gives his location. Ronan is here. His number 2 is here, on the tail of a MiG-19. But Ronan sees another MiG-19 moving into position to bounce him. Ronan slams the throttle forward.
It was 4 airplanes, a MiG, Mirage, a MiG, and myself.
Number 2 must quickly make his kill. The MiG is closing.
So I called him again and tried to convince him to hurry up.
After a seeming eternity, the MiG in front bursts into a shower of flaming debris. Ronan orders his number 2 to break away out of the fight. With cool efficiency, Ron Ronan bores in on his second kill of the day.
I closed behind him and, put the people on the cockpit and again pull the trigger and shot him down. And he spinned into the base.
One of Ronan's Cubs is safe, but the second has to be accounted for. Number 4 reports he's south of the base, hot on the tail of another MiG-19.
Then I looked and saw this is maybe one of the most strange pictures I've ever seen.
It's an almost surreal sight. A MiG-19 attempting to land on a bombed-out runway, with Ronan's number 4 wallowing at low speed behind him. The young pilot's eagerness for the kill has nearly spelled his demise. He's riding the throttle, struggling to stay behind the descending MiG. The Mirage is on the verge of stalling.
It was a young pilot, very dedicated pilot. He saw a MiG, he was so excited.
Ronan must get 4 to abandon the chase, lower his nose, and add power, without panic.
Then, in a very calm voice, he told him, okay, leave him. Leave the airplane to the right, carefully to the right, full power.
4 gains momentum, levels out, and banks away. Ronan pulls abreast of the landing MiG. On the runway, a huge crater looms up like the open jaws of a monster. The Egyptian pilot is either fatally confused or suicidal. Ronan banks away from the funeral pyre that is now Gardaka. The 3 Mirages barely make it back to base on fumes. They have completely paralyzed Gardaka and accounted for 4 MiGs. Not a bad day's work. Rigorous pilot training paid off handsomely during the 6-day war. But there was another contribution, a spectacular Mossad operation that will give the Israeli Air Force an unexpected technological edge. August 16, 1966. 10 months before the start of the 6-day war, 2 gleaming Mirages climb steeply through the clear skies of central Israel on a secret mission. After 3 days of standby alert, the planes have been quickly sent aloft. Even the lead pilot, Lieutenant Colonel Ron Ronan, doesn't know why they've been scrambled or where they're headed. Within seconds, the tower orders the Mirages to make a left turn, heading 090. Ronan can't believe his ears. They're sending him toward Jordan, the opposite direction from their most hostile enemy, Egypt. Ronan requests confirmation. The tower repeats the order, 090 at full power, adding the Hebrew phrase, Lemivgash.
Every one word is in Hebrew, Lemivgash, to intersection, which means there is a target identified, and you have all the green lights to intercept it and to kill.
Unsure of what lay ahead, Ronan tells his wingman, switches on. pilot's shorthand to arm his 30mm cannon and missiles. Then, over the radio comes an unexpected voice. Air Force Commander General Madi Had speaking directly to Ronan.
Iran, you will see in a few minutes something that you are not authorized to shut down. I said, Roger.
Had tells Ronan to watch his 11 o'clock.
Suddenly, I saw a black dot on the horizon. And it started to turn left, and then till I was in a 90 degree, and I saw a silhouette of aeroplane.
The shroud of mystery and secrecy has suddenly dropped away, revealing a silver prize glinting in the clear blue sky. It's a MiG-21 that has defected from Iraq, the subject of secret intelligence reports. No Israeli has ever laid eyes on the most advanced airplane in the Arab world. Until now.
It was like unbelievable, impossible. This is not a dream, but this is, something that beyond your imagination.
The Israelis pulled off a major coup, and that was to have Mossad entice an Iraqi Christian pilot to bring a then brand new MiG-21F to Israel.
Ronan's awe at the sight of the MiG is tempered by the threat of the unknown. This gleaming Cobra still has fangs.
And then I told my number two, you be sitting 250 meters behind you. Gun sight on him. Switches on, be ready.
Ronan approaches the MiG cautiously, wary of any sudden movements.
I thought maybe this is a kamikaze, maybe this is a threat. I left my two hands on the stick and the throttle in case you break, in case something, then I can. It was a little bit higher, very close, 10 meters less. And then he showed me, and I made like that. He answered me. He answered me, my two hands on the stick and the throttle, and he answered me. Only then I raised my left hand, and he answered me. Then I told him, you go after me. You, he said, okay, and like that. And I led him.
With Ronan flying off the MiG's wing, it is number two with thumb on the trigger. The remarkable three-ship formation heads back to Israel. Danny Shapira, Israel's chief test pilot, can't believe the news.
The pilot said to me, hey, just an hour ago, MiG-21 landed in Chatzor. Probably you will be the one to fly. I thought they were joking, I said, don't give me that bull.
But the next morning, he's in front of General Madi Had.
He looked at me, smiled, and he said, look, Danny, you're going to be the first Western pilot in the world to fly a MiG-21. I said, well, I'm glad to hear it.
This is actual footage of Shapira inspecting the MiG-21. Shapira is briefed by the Iraqi pilot. Russian and Arabic writing in the cockpit is replaced with English and Hebrew. And within only a few days, Shapira closes the canopy and lifts the MiG-21 smoothly into the bright Mediterranean sky.
Didn't have any problem. The rate of flying was excellent. Airplane was lighter, at least 2,000, 2,200 pounds, less than a Mirage.
After becoming familiar with the airplane, Shapira, and only Shapira, begins flying against senior Israeli fighter pilots.
We made a program to train our pilots and see how a MiG-21 maneuvers and what a Mirage has to do in order to stay behind of a MiG-21 and shoot it down.
We conducted 120 flights and, practiced against him to see the airplane, to be familiar with the airplane, to see several different silhouettes. And it was amazing.
The Israelis learned that the MiG-21 is light and fast. But at high speed and low altitude, the control surfaces become sluggish and unresponsive. Worst of all, the airplane has terrible rear visibility.
So I said to them, if you go down slightly, 500 feet below the MiG, he'll never see you. If you see a MiG doing this, it means that he's looking for you. He doesn't see you, but he's looking for you. Once he starts to turn, get in and shoot.
But the Israelis also come to appreciate the airplane's essential Russian qualities, especially the ease of maintenance.
It's like what we said at the time, it's like a Volkswagen. Fuel and go, and again and again.
One of the things about the Russians is they learned how to design an aircraft in a high, efficient, low-cost manner. They didn't even have flush riveting, and some of the seams were really rough. But who cares? It still can go Mach 2, and it was efficient, it was fast, it was maneuverable. And if it doesn't last more than a couple days in combat, make it cheap.
The intelligence coup helped the Israelis devise winning tactics during the Six-Day War. Israeli pilots destroy 58 enemy aircraft in air-to-air combat against a loss of 10 of their own. A remarkable achievement. Over the next decade, these airmen will hone their fighting skills in the turmoil of Middle East conflict. Then, in 1979, using a new generation of American-built aircraft, the Israeli Air Force will introduce the world to the modern age of dogfighting. June 27, 1979, over Lebanon, near Sidon, the base of operations for PLO terrorist activity in the region. 4 Israeli F-15s from 133 Squadron speed due east toward a rendezvous with history. The F-15 is a fighter pilot's dream. Powerful, maneuverable, lethal. The Israelis only half-jokingly call them flying SAM sites because of the airplane's big radar and all the weapons it carries. 8 missiles, 4 radar-guided and 4 heat-seeking. And 940 rounds of high-explosive ammunition for its 20mm Gatling gun. This is the first time the F-15 has been in combat anywhere in the world. The 4-ship, led by Colonel Benny Zinker, is alerted by GCI that Syrian MiGs have crossed into Lebanese airspace from the east. The F-15s break hard. Major Moshe Melnick is flying off Zinker's wing as his number 2.
He open afterburner and concentrate in the radar. He got immediate lock on the MiGs, and very fast they were in range of launching.
The MiGs are almost 20 miles away, but the F-15 has been designed for BVR, Beyond Visual Range, combat. The F-15's enormous radar has found the targets and fed the information to its AIM-7 missiles.
Now we got permission from the GCI to open fire, but usually you are waiting till the leader gives you also his permission. And I waited. I was wondering why Benny Zinker is not giving us permission to open fire, because I've seen on my radar that we are in range.
Seconds into the F-15's first armed confrontation, Moshe Melnick knows why his leader, Benny Zinker, has not cleared him to fire. Both men want the first kill.
So actually, I pressed the pickle button, the launch button, almost the same time, almost the same tenth of a second, and both missiles both F-7 missiles were launched together and like a formation.
Two radar-guided Sparrows streak away from the F-15s at Mach 3.
And we waited, and it was a marvelous sight to see the missiles going together in a formation, the mountains, the horizon, blue skies, and we waited, and nothing happened.
In the first ever attempt at an F-15 BVR kill, the Sparrows fail to lock and streak harmlessly into space.
We were amazed, we were shocked.
Already an ace in the F-4 Phantom, Melnick instinctively reverts to time-honored dogfighting tactics. He gets his head outside the cockpit.
I went back to the old habits. Good sight, good look outside, not anymore on the radar scope.
The MiGs, aware that they've come up against the most powerful fighter in Middle Eastern skies, turn back towards Syria. The maneuver exposes their hot tailpipes to Melnick's heat-seeking Python missiles.
They are turning right in front of us, from right to left, right in front of us like this.
Melnick gets first tally on the MiGs. The Python 3, an advanced Israeli version of the American AIM-9 Sidewinder, is growling into his headset. Suddenly, the MiGs reverse.
In the middle of this reverse of the turn, I launched my missile.
Melnick is cranked past 130 degrees to stay with the MiGs. The Python is an all-aspect missile and can take the G. There is no ejection. Within the span of 30 seconds, Melnick has made history. An Israeli has taken first blood for the F-15. The F-15, built by McDonnell Douglas, was the first American aircraft since the F-86, designed specifically for air-to-air combat. In 1976, Israel became the first country outside the United States to acquire the Mach 2 air superiority fighter.
The first flight I made in the F-15 was like my first solo in life. The excitement, the joyfulness, and it was great.
Moshe Melnick has just killed a Syrian MiG-21 over Lebanon. The MiG's wingman is escaping. But two other F-15s from the four-ship formation, Eitan Ben Eliyahu and Yoel Felshow, scream into the fight. Felshow gets radar lock on a fleeing MiG-21 and fires an AIM-7. This time, the Sparrow flies straight and true. It's number 2 for the F-15. Then, a second formation of MiGs looms on the horizon. They are heading right into the F-15s. Over Lebanon, 133 Squadron is battling Syrian MiG-21s and scored the world's first 2 F-15 kills. Now, Eitan Ben Eliyahu is going to go head-to-head with a third.
It's the one airplane, which was number 4 in their formation, flew directly head-on to me, and he was passing by me. This was the 1-versus-1 engagement.
The MiG and the F-15 pass in a classic merge. Then each turns hard to get on the other's tail. Ben Eliyahu finds himself in a high-G turning fight, an arena in which the Israelis dominate.
Once he engaged, when he passed by me, he had no other choice but to engage with me. And I had no other choice but to kill him.
The MiG can't sustain a level high-G turn. He noses down to keep his energy up, descending rapidly. Eliyahu is on him like glue, his powerful F-100 turbofan engines providing unmatched thrust in the turn.
So after 2.5 turns, very close to each other, he was looking for the right second to escape. He had no choice. We were close to the ground. He had to roll out.
It's too close for even a heat-seeking missile. Ben Eliyahu goes to guns to deliver the classic Israeli coup de grace.
The minute a little bit he rolled out, I did another pull, and I was right after him, 600 yards, 650 yards.
The M61 Gatling gun, nestled in the F-15's right wing, spews out 20mm ammunition at 6,000 rounds per minute.
All I had to do is to squeeze the trigger 2 times. Two shots, and it's gone.
He took the only gunshot kill at this combat. We were envy, by the way, because we appreciate gunshot kill much more than everything else. He was the hero of this engagement because he brought a gunshot kill like it should be in our books.
What's interesting about this engagement is it ended up where several Syrian MiG-21s were shot down. F-15 pilots used a mix of weapons. This included radar-guided Sparrows, IR-guided missiles, and a cannon kill.
The F-15 was clearly master of the skies over Lebanon.
The Israelis made a point, which is that I still retain air superiority in this region, and if you attempt to mess with my strike operations, you'll pay for it.
The F-15's sophisticated radar and electronics suite have been continuously updated and modernized. 50 Syrian MiGs have fallen to F-15 since 1979. Without a single combat loss to Israel. The F-15 established not only air superiority in the region, but air dominance. This was enhanced in 1980 with the arrival of the F-16, a lightweight dogfighter that can also put bombs on target with incredible accuracy. Advanced models of both aircraft are now in service with the Israeli Air Force. But with the near certainty that Syria has acquired the agile Mach 2 MiG-29 with its advanced avionics, Israel has been leading the development of new technology for air combat. The Python 4 and 5 from Rafael may be the world's most advanced all-aspect infrared missiles. When combined with new cockpit avionics, the result is a revolution in dogfighting tactics. Elbit Systems leads the world in the design of helmet-mounted sights that enable the fighter pilot to simply look at a target to aim his weapons.
During the 1967 war, it might take 30 seconds for a pilot to maneuver into a position where he can shoot another aircraft down with a gun. At that time, he has to look around and make sure that there's no other airplane engaging him. Today, in a similar engagement, within 5 to 10 seconds, you might be able to look to the left, to the right, detect the target, fire the missile, and kill the airplane.
Given the history of violence in the region, Israeli pilots will continue to fly on the edge for the foreseeable future.